Hey there guys, we're taking a look at The Witcher 3 running on the i5-1135G7. Now this is currently running at 1080p at the lowest possible settings and the performance is not great. Specifically in those 1% lows, those are very rough. We are in single digit territory. We are getting pretty much just a consistent stutter throughout the entire experience of trying to play like this. Even the most die-hard fan of this game would not be able to really play the game like this. And unfortunately, there's not really much more we could do besides really going into the game files and starting to try to optimize as much as possible, but then you really sacrifice the visuals of the game. And before you go through doing all of that, I feel like dropping the resolution is just the most logical next step. Because as it stands at 1080p, the averages aren't necessarily too bad, it's just those 1% lows that are the problem. So if that can be resolved, then we can potentially get into territory where the game might be a playable experience. And of course, 720p does indeed turn out to be the saving grace of this game, because now we're getting 1% lows that are pretty nice and averages that are actually pretty incredible. This was a surprise to me. Now, obviously, it would be nice if those 1% lows were a little bit better, but still being around that 30 FPS average, it is actually a pretty nice experience. Though there is going to be kind of this consistent stutter throughout the entirety of the experience. It's not going to be completely off-putting, but it is going to be there. So if that's something that's going to bother you, maybe this is not it for you. Maybe you could start trying to turn down the settings just a little bit more. But honestly, this is about as good as it gets, and you could get away with playing the game like this. It's not really that bad a performance. It's not going to be incredible, but it is a pretty enjoyable experience. And I mean, this is one of those games where it's just such a enjoyable, fun game that I would probably tolerate this to play this if this was the only way I could play it. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, don't play The Witcher because, you know, the experience might not be incredible in terms of performance. No, this is such a fun game and it's such an enjoyable experience that I feel like if this is the only way you could play it, go right ahead. You're going to have a good time. And I'm now very curious to see how this is going to run on the 5500U, because I'm surprisingly impressed with what the i5 was actually able to do on here. And I mean, one thing to note is that this iGPU is going to continue to be what 12th gen is going to have. We are going to see an improvement in the CPU, and it's going to be a noticeable bump for sure, but it's not going to be a monumental leap in terms of the iGPU. It's going to be identical, and that's going to come with a lot of shortcomings. So hopefully they at least fix the drivers at some point.